What's the most fun version of Scripture ever created? Well, my vote's on the Brick Testament. The Brick Testament is a project created by Elb Sperling in which the Bible stories are illustrated using still photographs of dioramas constructed entirely out of Lego bricks. The project, which is unaffiliated with the Lego company, began as a website in October of 2001 and featured 6 stories from the book of Genesis. Today, the project covers the entire Bible with over 4,000 illustrations. We are racing through the Bible, and this is 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Are you ready? Let's go. You can read about Paul's time in Thessalonica at the beginning of Acts chapter 17. Paul and Silas preach in the Jewish synagogue for 3 weeks in a row. Some of the Jews became jealous, so they rounded up the idle scoundrels from the agora and they caused a riot. They rushed to the home of Jason, one of the believers with whom Paul was staying, and dragged him before the Roman magistrates. Paul and Silas are forced to escape from Thessalonica under the cover of night. Paul had only spent a very short time in Thessalonica, so the converts that were left there had very little preparation for the persecution they were facing. Paul really wanted to return to Thessalonica, but somehow Satan prevented him from it. Unable to go to Thessalonica himself, Paul sent Timothy to strengthen and to encourage the Thessalonians. When Timothy rejoined Paul, he brought Paul an exhilarating report of the Thessalonians' faith and love and hope. Relief and joy prompted Paul to write this first letter to the Thessalonians. He wrote to tell them how thankful he was for their remaining faithful to the gospel and to further encourage them in their faith. Being relatively new Christians, he also wrote to supply what was lacking in their faith. Paul wrote in order to encourage them in their trials, instruct them about godly living and working hard, and to assure them about the future of believers who die before Christ's second coming. In fact, every chapter of 1 Thessalonians ends with a reference to the second coming of Christ. Also, 2 Thessalonians seem to be written with the express purpose of correcting a misunderstanding of Jesus' return. Thessalonica was the largest and most important city in Macedonia. It was also the capital of the region. Thessalonica, which still exists today but is known as Salonika, was founded about 315 BC by Cassander, who named it in honor of his wife, the half-sister of Alexander the Great. Originally, the name of the city was Therma or Thermi, and that Greek name meant hot bath or hot springs, called that because of the hot salt springs located about 4 miles away. Because of its fortunate political alignments during civil war in Rome, it was declared a free city, which basically means they didn't have to pay taxes. It has been estimated that in New Testament times, Thessalonica had a population of around 200,000 people. The church was mostly Gentiles, converts from paganism, but it did have some Jews. It was situated on the most famous of Roman military roads, the Egnatian Way, which connected Rome with the East. The Romans constructed the Egnatian Way for the military purpose of moving their legions quickly from one part of the empire to another. The highway passed right through Thessalonica. Huge arched gates towered over the road on the west and the east ends of the city. It was a seaport and a center of trade and commerce, a city ideally suited to Paul's missionary strategy. Being the capital city of the area and a major military station and commercial center, Thessalonica was host or home to many different people from all regions of the Roman Empire. Roman officials, Roman soldiers and sailors, shippers, merchants, travelers and visitors, Gentiles in great numbers, as well as Jews. Thessalonica was the type of city that Paul would have loved to conduct a prolonged ministry of preaching the gospel. Paul wrote from Corinth around AD 51. He wrote 2 Thessalonians less than 6 months after 1 Thessalonians. Structurally, 1 Thessalonians includes 2 parts. Looking back in chapters 1 to 3, in which Paul first reminded these Christians about their dramatic conversion and Paul's ministry with them. In chapters 4 and 5, Paul looks ahead. He left them with some instructions on some key points. Paul is very to the point in these chapters, but his writing is very sweet. 2 Thessalonians has 3 parts, each its own chapter. Chapter 1 is encouragement. Paul encouraged them to be faithful to Jesus and to hold firmly to the Christian teaching that they had received from Paul. Chapter 2 is Paul's instruction. Paul assured the Thessalonian Christians that they had not missed Jesus' return and that Paul had not changed his teaching. Paul finished his letter with prayer requests and a charge to go back to work.